In June 2026, the organizations responsible for protecting the global economy from cyber threats were compromised themselves. The confirmed victims list reads like a roster of elite defensive capabilities: Huntress, HackerOne, Jamf, Recorded Future, and Tanium. Yet this incident bypassed their world-class threat detection. There were no zero-day vulnerabilities exploited, no malware was deployed, no brute force attacks battered their firewalls. The simultaneous breach for companies was orchestrated by a newly identified threat actor operating under the name Icarus. Unlike traditional ransomware operators who encrypt systems and demand payment for a decryption key, Icarus focuses strictly on silent data exfiltration. They extract sensitive information and extort victims under the threat of public disclosure. These security firms were not breached individually. The single common denominator connecting all of them was a shared integration with a competitive intelligence platform called Klue. By compromising this one third-party vendor, the attackers instantly bypassed the defenses of hundreds of downstream clients. These elite organizations spend millions hardening their external perimeters, but the shared integration hub sitting inside those perimeters provided an open door. Modern attack surfaces have expanded to include a sprawling network of machine-to-machine machinations. When delegated access protocols and non-human identities are compromised, they route entirely around traditional perimeter defenses. Standard security models face a unique challenge when the activity originates from a source that has already been authorized. The timeline of this incident begins in early June 2026, entirely within Klue's internal infrastructure. Icarus gained initial access through a single legacy GitHub personal access token. Developers routinely generate these tokens. They are designed to allow rapid, frictionless collaboration with vendors to ship projects on tight deadlines. But once a project concludes, organizations rarely have a centralized system or policy in place to automatically revoke that access credential. This specific GitHub token was shared with a vendor years prior. The project ended, but the token sat quietly active and entirely unmonitored. When Icarus discovered this forgotten credential, they used it to establish an authenticated session. It allowed them to walk directly into Klue's internal environment without triggering a single security alarm. This is administrative debt. Failing to actively manage the lifecycle of non-human credentials creates permanent, unmonitored footholds that attackers exploit years after you have forgotten them. Between June 10th and 15th, Icarus moved laterally through the network, but they ignored Klue's proprietary data entirely. Instead, the attackers pushed a highly targeted, malicious code update directly into Klue's production environment. The objective of this specific code was to harvest the authorization tokens that connected Klue to its customers' third-party CRM platforms, specifically Salesforce. These are known as OAuth tokens. An OAuth token is a delegated credential. It allows one application to access resources on behalf of an organization without ever requiring a human password. This diagram details the architectural hierarchy of the attack path. The attackers move from the compromised vendor network at Layer 1 into the OAuth integration layer at Layer 2, which grants direct access to the target Salesforce networks at Layer 3. With the tokens secured, Icarus deployed automated Python scripts between June 16th and 17th. These scripts began querying the Salesforce REST APIs of the target organizations, systematically extracting sensitive CRM data. This activity went completely undetected at first. The API calls were cryptographically authenticated using the stolen, valid OAuth tokens. Furthermore, the traffic originated from trusted IP addresses that were historically associated with Klue's normal operations. Because the access was technically authorized by the system, there were 0 failed authentication logs to trigger an alert in the Security Operations Center. This silent data exfiltration ran uninterrupted for roughly 24 hours, before security teams at Huntress and ReliaQuest finally recognized anomalous patterns in the API access logs. Traditional behavioral monitoring tools look for unauthorized entry. They are structurally blind to OAuth weaponization because the malicious traffic appears entirely legitimate to the system. Threat actors now target the connections between applications rather than the applications themselves, driven by the underlying economics of modern supply chain attacks. Look at this network graph to see the asymmetric return on investment. A single compromised hub at the top cascades down, multiplying the attack surface across hundreds of interconnected enterprise environments. Attempting to breach 700 elite security companies individually would require massive resources, custom exploits, and immense friction. Hacking one integration hub achieves the same result in a fraction of the time. This topology carries a compounding danger: token persistence. Unlike human passwords, standard OAuth tokens frequently lack built-in expiration dates. They remain valid indefinitely. Even if an organization executes an enterprise-wide password reset in response to a threat, the machine-to-machine tokens survive and maintain access. Integration hubs inadvertently act as high-value transit points for the global SaaS ecosystem. A single vulnerability in a vendor scales instantly into a massive extortion event. This incident exposes a widespread misconception regarding what actually constitutes a zero-trust architecture. Aggressively monitoring human users, enforcing multi-factor authentication, and securing employee endpoints does not fulfill the requirements of zero trust. There is a structural hypocrisy in modern network defense. Human access is heavily scrutinized, while machine-to-machine API traffic is currently trusted by default. Security operations must transition immediately to continuous monitoring of API access logs. Teams have to proactively hunt for anomalous bulk data extraction, regardless of the credentials used. Organizations must also regularly audit all active third-party integrations to identify and restrict overly permissive access scopes. A zero-trust architecture fails entirely unless every non-human integration is continuously verified with the exact same skepticism applied to a new, unverified human user. The first systemic solution to this visibility crisis is SaaS Security Posture Management, or SSPM. SSPM platforms continuously track application scopes and identify risky OAuth configurations across a company's entire SaaS ecosystem. To neutralize token theft entirely, organizations must adopt an advanced architectural model known as zero standing privileges. This model structurally limits an attacker's blast radius by eliminating permanent access tokens entirely. Under zero standing privileges, an integration requiring a 1-hour sync is issued a token valid for exactly 65 minutes. If that token is stolen, it quickly expires, becoming useless. Beyond architecture, this threat requires a cultural shift. Following the breach, Huntress published a radically transparent, detailed technical breakdown of their own compromise. Hiding a breach to protect corporate reputation actively harms the industry. It prevents other companies from learning the specific tactics, techniques, and procedures used by the attackers. In a hyper-connected SaaS ecosystem, security isn't a static perimeter you achieve. It's a continuous process of identity lifecycle management and shared industry intelligence.